You are watching 90s Rock in 9 minutes. I'm Sam Bass. This is Ashley.
What's up?
And this is Alice in Chains Unplugged. Just soak that in for a minute. Unplugged, a whole album by Alice in Chains, one of the heaviest bands of the 90s. Unplugged. I just think that Alice in Chains' music fits that format really well. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like just being stripped down.
Right.
All the songs are, just about being depressed and on drugs and freaking.
So that's better acoustically?
Yeah, that's better acoustically. So you can really,
I think it sounds better because they have 3 guitar players?
They actually, they brought on an extra guitar player for this that they didn't have. And so they have a bass, 2 guitars, a singer, and Jerry Cantrell, he also sings and does the guitar. I have a drummer. This show marks the first appearance of second guitarist Scott Olsen. That was his name. And that's why you don't ever think of Alice in Chains with Scott Olsen. Who's Scott Olsen? He wasn't in the band until this bad puppy right here. You know what I mean?
So that got him the gig?
I don't know what got him the gig. What got Scott Olsen the gig was sitting down with Jerry, sitting down with Lane, cracking a couple beers, smoking a huge fat blunt, and going, bro, AIC, me? And they're like, C. You know what I mean? That's Spanish for yes.
I'm sure that's how most things happen in the 90s.
We got stoned and drunk, and we're like, let's do this.
Yeah?
Yeah. This album came out on July 30th, 1996. This was the first performance that Alice in Chains had made as a group in a couple of years.
Oh, yeah? Why is that?
Well, I mean, I think they just sort of drifted apart as a band, and I know that Lane Staley, the main singer, he was dealing with some demons, some addiction and stuff, and so they came together for that performance on April 10th of 96. And then the album dropped a few months later. And to be honest, I didn't have this album as in the 90s. I didn't really ever pick this one up. By the early 2000s, I know I met somebody who had the DVD of the performance.
Mm-hmm.
And was watching it at their house. And I was like, man, this is really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, this is one of my favorite 90s bands, and it was their performance of Rooster from this that got me hooked on them. It was the first time I really heard any of their music, and that performance of Rooster, it's just so emotional, and then when I learned, a little bit more about it, it's related to his father, right?
Yeah.
His father who was in war?
Yeah, his father was in war, and they nicknamed, Jerry Cantrell's dad was nicknamed the Rooster.
Okay.
So, they were like, he ain't gonna die. In the lyrics in the song, he ain't gonna die. They're trying to kill him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was all from that.
Yeah. So, that really got me.
Honestly, guys, she was born in the 90s, okay? I was born
95, right in the middle of it.
I was born in the 80s. I grew up, lived through the 90s. And whenever she started going, hey, what's this band? I really like Alice in Chains. I was like,
Guess I got good taste.
Yeah, you have great 90s taste. And that's impressive.
Even though I was a baby during it, I feel like, I was still there. So I probably heard this all in passing through radio or TV and movies.
And that's how I am with 80s music. I like it, but that's because it was just on. I was walking around in a diaper or something.
Right. So I really love the aesthetic of that era, and it takes me back to being really young.
This is a special album. This is kind of like an album that we really connected with, and it brings us together.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you could do the same for you and people that you care about. Put this on. Listen to people literally nearly in tears singing about their drug addictions, and you will feel the love with whoever you're with. You guys will just bond together. So there's actually a song on here that wasn't released until this came out called "Killer Is Me," and they have other songs like "No Excuses," "Down in a Hole," "Angry Chair," "Rooster," "Heaven Beside You," "Wood," which was off of the Singles movie soundtrack. They really did. They covered it all, you know. Now, with Nirvana, from what I've seen, they just sat down and they did the whole performance in one shot. You know, their record. That's why their record is so amazing, you know, and like it's been heralded as one of the greatest, you know, acoustic performances of all time. These guys, however, they did have to sit down and they had to go through a couple of the songs once or twice. You know, I mean, I have to make mention, this was really one of the last times that you really saw Alice in Chains all together as a
That's
group.
what I was going to ask. I felt like maybe that was one of their last big performances.
Yeah, it was. And what a way to go out on top, you know. The singer, Lane Staley, just really was getting bad in his health. I actually read that he was just, by the end of it all, you know, he was locking himself in his apartment and just playing Nintendo all day. And, you know, not talking to anybody. Mm-hmm. So thank God that they did this, you know, because he was really a talented guy, you know.
He was. And he had a really unique sound.
Yeah.
His voice.
Yeah, Lane Staley has a voice that will never be replicated.
Mm-mm.
And that brings me to my next point. Alice in Chains did get another singer eventually. You didn't know that? Yeah. And they started coming out with albums. I don't particularly consider that to be Alice in Chains in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
You know, I know, you know what? God bless them, and they moved on and did what they needed to do. But it's like two different bands.
Yeah. And I think, you know, kind of like Freddie Mercury, you know, because of the way his mouth is structured, he pronounced things a certain way and sang a certain way. Yeah. And I think he was the same. That's why no one can really replicate, because it was just kind of that situation.
Probably so. I never really thought about how he was getting that sound.
I can tell, because most people don't speak like that, but you have a certain mouth, I guess you do.
I mean, I always just thought his voice is so deep, he must have two Adam's apples. Like, I'm the barrel in the box. You know,
that's how he gets that vibrating.
Yeah, he's got two Adam's apples. Maybe,
whoa.
Yeah. Little known
fact.
fact.
Drugs, it was all the hormones.
Lane Staley used drugs to cope with the fact that he had two Adam's apples and 3 testicles. That was his shadow work.
Ooh, that's a lot of shadow work right there.
I am Sam Bass. This is Ashley. Be sure to like and subscribe if you feel like it. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please like and subscribe. We really do appreciate any interactions we get. And if you even want to be on the show, then just contact or reach out. We would love to find out more about the 90s from you.